Right now, we're going to go to ESPN's front office NBA insider, Bobby Marks, get his thoughts on the job that Daryl Morey has done with this team in a short amount of time as he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. Bobby, welcome back to the show. How you been, pal?
I'm good. How are you?
All is well. So Daryl Morey comes in, and all of a sudden you see a kind of change in philosophy of this team pretty quickly. Is it pretty apparent that his thumbprint is on this roster and not Elton Brand's?
Yeah, I mean, he targeted shooting, right? I mean, that kind of, I think moving off the Al Horford, big contract, I think there was a plan in place where, if it was a guy like Danny Green or Steph Curry, that guys that were maybe acquired last year with, Josh Richardson and Al Horford, that didn't fit kind of what Daryl was looking to do. And now you add shooters to this group, something that can open up the floor a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, and then Tyrese Maxi in the first round too. I mean, they've done a really nice job. It's all about kind of finding those complementary pieces around. Yeah, they've identified Ben and Joel as those are our two core guys, and we're going to do everything we can to build around those two.
Bobby, you've been in the position of trying to, take these calls, make these calls, bad contracts. I know we've all been guilty of saying, hey, I've made a signing of a bad contract. How impressed were you with what they were able to get and do with the Horford deal?
Yeah, I mean, usually, if you're looking to try to just dump it, you're not getting back, a good player, and Danny Green's a good player, and you're going to have to give up a lot, considerable how much was left on that contract. And from a draft compensation, it wasn't that bad at all. So yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly impressive just because of how much was left on it. I mean, he still had 2 more years guaranteed at 50 plus, and then he had that partial guarantee in that last year here. And I didn't think, every contract is certainly tradable, but it's a matter of kind of what else do you have to give up to just get rid of it. So yeah, that was certainly impressive as far as what Daryl was able to do.
Richardson's a guy who just, not a good enough shooter, not a good enough ball handler, not a good enough creator. Nice player, but just not good enough at everything the Sixers seem to lack. The swap for Richardson and Curry, how do you view on Curry's fit here with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watched him in Dallas, certainly in the playoffs there, he is a complimentary shooter. I think he, as I said, he can space the floor. He knows his role. I think what I like was that, you get, Josh was probably going to become a free agent next year with that player option. You get Curry on the contract for this year and 2 more. So at least you have him, especially where your salaries are going to be here. But yeah, I mean, he'll come off the role as a 6th man off the bench, and just something that they had to go out and get Al Burks and Glenn Robinson at the deadline just to try to patch up that shooting, and now you get a guy like with Steph Curry and also, as I said, with Danny Green.
Bobby Marks, ESPN NBA front office insider. I don't know if there is a message or if you figured out a message, but some people have said, what's the message trading Zaire Smith for Tony Bradley? I mean, is that just, hey, we need a third guy behind Joel and Dwight? I mean, is there a method to Morey's madness with that deal?
I think it's more of a third big. I mean, I think kind of the Zaire Smith experiment, if we go revisionist history, the amount that you kind of gave up to get him, and it just never worked out, from either from injury standpoint or his role. You get a third big behind with Dwight. And I think probably Tony's got maybe a little more value down the road if you wanted to move him in a deal than probably Zaire does. So I think that's kind of the philosophy there as far as why they did that.
Dwight Howard spoke today, and some people who would just hear Dwight Howard's name would say, what did they do there? But, I mean, it seems like he's the perfect fit behind Embiid, and it sounds like he's matured. He understands that he's an 18 to 20-minute guy. He's like an Energizer bunny, it seems like, late in his career here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he only fits with certain teams. I think he fit with the Lakers because of that locker room was, so dominating with the voice of LeBron and certainly with AD and the other players with that group. I think he fits with Philly because of, Doc is such a, with his personality, he's not going to kind of let you slide. I think Daryl, having worked with him in Houston before, I think Dwight's not for everyone. And I think if he knows kind of what his role is going to be, he's not going to be the starter, come late December here. And if he knows what his role is going to be, and he's on a minimum contract, so hey, if it goes haywire, you just kind of cut bait and you let him go here. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good moments that you saw from Dwight last year during the regular season and also in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's certainly, they have lacked a defensive presence behind Joel Embiid. They finally have a guy. They tried it with Horford. They tried to bring in Greg Monroe. I mean, everybody's been a disaster behind Embiid. It seems like they finally have patched up that spot. At this point, what they've done, is this a team that has moved up the rankings, or are they still kind of stuck in, 4, 5, 6 area?
I think they're better than they were last year. I think what they've done, I think the roster has improved, and I think it's like, how did the roster that's got $155 million committed in salary improve? And I think it's just kind of, I think the players or the pieces work better, and we'll see, at least on paper, than they did last year. So I think if you're looking at the Eastern Conference, and we've got, certainly Milwaukee, Brooklyn will be, really good. Certainly the Heat. I think we could put the Sixers ahead of probably Boston, Toronto, certainly Indiana. So I think the top four, in the Eastern Conference, wouldn't surprise me if Philly finished number one. It wouldn't surprise me if they finished number 3. I think it's going to be really competitive here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Is there still a move for Morey to make, or is this kind of it?
I think it's it. I mean, your roster is pretty much full. I mean, we start training camp next Tuesday, which is unbelievable that we're getting ready to do that. So I think I would be surprised if we see really a lot of moves in the league in the next week or two here, leading up to training camp and then the regular season here. But with getting back healthy with Tobias, you got Joel. I don't see another move right now. I think you kind of let's see what this roster has. Let's see how they do over the next 3 months, and then when we get to the trade deadline in March, let's see what doesn't work and what we can do to kind of fix it.
Yeah, I know people, Maxi was a guy that they got, later in the draft there, and you wonder, all right, most times in the NBA, can I really think a guy at 21 is going to come in and make any sort of an impact? Do you think he's a guy that can come in that late in the draft and help out a team in his first year?
I think he can. I think it's going to be, and I say this with all these first-round picks, they are behind the 8 ball big time here. I mean, they really are, just because by the time they were drafted, I mean, they were only drafted last Wednesday. To get them into a city, it's not like, they've had the whole offseason to work with the coaching staff. It's going to be, their head is going to be spinning, probably during training camp here. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a huge adjustment, not just for him, but for Anthony Edwards or James Wiseman or LaMelo Ball, any of these players, because it's different than the lockout of 2011 where we had the draft, and then we had about a week before the season, or there was a lockout where at least those players were allowed to come to your own facility, meet with your coaches here. Now it's basically a crash course since they were drafted to get them to this city. And I don't know. I mean, I think we're in such the unknown about how these guys are going to react, and to be able, the ability to crack this rotation, which is pretty deep as is with veterans. I do think it's probably going to be tough.
Team in the East that you've liked what they've done the most this offseason?
Probably Atlanta. I mean, when you turn around and you turn your cap space into Danilo Gallinari and Bogdanovic, Chris Dunn, players like that, I think they drafted well. I think they probably jump into the top 8. I like what Miami did. I mean, they took Avery Bradley and Mo Harkless, and they used the Jay Crowder money and turned into both players. Then you bring Dragic back. So I like what they were able to do also here. But, for the most part, the teams up top, Brooklyn stayed pat with, just really adding Joe Harris here. I think Milwaukee took a little bit of step back with Gordon Hayward. Milwaukee will be interesting just because they have a totally new bench, and we're all waiting on to figure out what Giannis does here. But I would say if there's a team that probably cracks the top 8, it's probably Atlanta, and they probably maybe bump Indiana or Orlando out.
Now, you said Brooklyn stands pat, except for the fact that they are adding Kevin Durant.
Yeah, we forget about that, don't
we? He may have been on the payroll last year, but he did not play. I do want to get your thoughts on what happens in Golden State now. I mean, do you wipe them off the contender line, or does Curry, a healthy back, make them a championship contender, or are they kind of on the next line down?
I think they're on the next line down. I mean, I think the top 4 or 5 in the Western Conference is certainly the Lakers. I've been on record saying I really like what Portland's been able to do. The Clippers, Denver, Utah. I mean, that's 5 right there. We don't know what's going to happen with Houston, of course. I think probably teams, Dallas will be up there, New Orleans, teams like that. But I can't put Golden State in that top 4. That Thompson injury really hurts them. If he was healthy, I'd probably say they're probably the 3rd best team, 4th best team, but I just can't right now.
Best player available still right now that could help somebody?
Probably Hassan Whiteside. I mean, we saw a lot of bigs that just were not, that wasn't everyone's kind of cup of tea. I mean, Aaron Baines went off the board on, I think, Sunday, and he was one of the last bigs to do so. But Whiteside's still out there. We'll see if maybe a team like Sacramento that's got a bunch of roster spots and they need a center would fill that need. But yeah, I think Whiteside there's a lot of veterans out there. John Henson, Brandon Knight, and I tell agents this all the time. They're like, how come we can't get our guy a job? Is that we see it every year. There's 30 first round picks. There's 15 to 20 second round picks. I mean, that's 50 right there that just take jobs away from veterans that wound up being on the roster at the end of the year, and it's a tough business.
Bobby Marks, ESPN's NBA front office insider at Bobby Marks 42. As he mentioned, training camp opens in about a week and a half here. Hard to believe, but get ready. Hoops is back. Bobby, always appreciate it, man. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you.
He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Great insight